Welcome to another episode of The Second Coming. I'm your host, Jason Keeton, and I'm here with Brother T. How's it going today, Brother T?
It's going well. It's going very well. Thanks for asking. How's it going with you?
Beautiful. I love fall weather in Ohio, so it's beautiful outside and my favorite time of year.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's one of my favorite times too. I would say that I like spring better for some reason because it seems like all this new life is exploding. You know, all the trees are waking up and the green leaves and the green grass. But I like the fall too. I like the weather actually. I like the cooler nights for sure.
Right. Well, today, Brother T, I'm going to take you back to fall 12 years ago. Back when you were at a Paul Selig gathering, I guess, when he was writing one of his books. And I'm actually just reading that book for the first time. So I'll let you breathe us in and I'll follow us up with some questions. But I want you to take us back to the first time that you heard I Am Word by Paul Selig, and you were at that book gathering and that reading.
Okay, that sounds like fun. You know, I had written I started writing that story because the date of that was November 2nd in 2012. And so earlier, back in early November, I started I started writing again to our community, and I started telling that story. And it's evolved quite a bit since then, but it's there, it's archived, and it's on Substack. So if you're interested in hearing more detail if anybody's interested in hearing more detail about that, you can join us on Substack at truemind.space, TRUE mind, MIND.space, or truethought.org. It's up here. Both of those are up here. But anyway, go join us on Substack, and you can read, kind of a literary account of my experience there. But yeah, I'm glad to talk about that. Let's take a brief moment and let's catch our breath. Take a good deep breath and turn within for just a moment. Hearing all kinds of I love you this morning. I'm feeling the hugs and feeling the smiles. Yes, we are truly blessed. So we say thank you, Mother, Father, God, for joining us this morning with this beautiful love that God is. Thank you for opening the channel, if you will, so that we can be informed about the truth of who we are and we can return to our divine nature. We are truly blessed in this experience, and we ask that we are guided by the highest consciousness available to us this morning as we delve into these conversations about who we really are, what we really are, and how we can serve humanity in this incarnation. It will be so. Behold, we make all things new. God is, God is, God is. Okay, so just a little bit of history, and we've spoken about it here before, but Paul Selig is a clairvoyant medium, okay? And back in at the time of the harmonic conversion back in 1987, Paul had really not very much religious indoctrination at all. And he was a playwright, a teacher, professor actually at a university in New York, and had lots of students and was really happy with his job and so forth. But something had inspired him to go up to the top of the building that night, if I remember correctly, and just to meditate. And he was learning about spirituality, at least to some degree. And suddenly he started hearing the guides coming through. After that, he started having little gatherings. People would come and joining him in his apartment in New York. Some of his students would come. And he would literally read people, and they would ask questions about their loved ones or people in their life, and he could literally connect with those people and then kind of impersonate or become them and help his students, whoever was participating in his gatherings, to overcome some of the troubles and some of the issues that they were having. So one thing leads to another, In 2009 now, which was, 20 years later, and the guides wanted to write a book, and this had been coming for a long time, and they were quite prepared. So Paul had a partner, Victoria, who was in California, and he's in New York, and she would get on the phone, and he was recording everything he was saying, and she was scribing some of it and listening in, and that's how it began. And they recorded this entire first book. They scribed this entire first book in just a matter of 2 or 3 weeks. I think it was 25 days, something like that. It was less than a month. That was the very first book. And then what came after that was almost every year. But it was, I think the second book came through in 2010, somewhere around there. The 12th book was just released for consumption. It's on Amazon. You can buy it just this past September. So in the last 12 years, there's been 12 books. And I met Paul Selig on that date, November 2nd of 2012. And I had gone to a little town in Ohio with a dear friend of mine. And I was already teaching A Course in Miracles workbook lessons to a conference group of people that were calling in on a conference line. And we were doing it every day. And then so one of my students, Melissa, dear Melissa, she twisted my arm and said, let's go together. And she told me about Paul. She had found him, and she was really interested in what he had to share and how he was sharing it. And so I went with her. And so, again, you can follow the more explicit detail of the experience on our Substack page, truemind.space. But anyway, so that was the beginning of my acquaintance with Paul personally. He's just a really sweet, super nice guy. And he was having all these experiences, and then the guides were, channeling through him, and they've done amazing work. Paul now, he gave up his career, what he was doing, and now he is full-time devoted to spiritual teaching. And, we talk about how when you become aligned, truly aligned, and you evolve consciously, that love, peace, joy, and abundance come into your life. Paul is now living in Hawaii and evidently having quite a nice time. And his life has just become really joy-filled and abundant, and he feels so blessed by his experience. And what they're teaching is the pathway to enlightenment, and it absolutely coincides with A Course in Miracles. So you said you might have a question, Jason. What's your question today about that first book? You said you started reading it.
Yeah, first of all, it really captures you, and what really brought to my attention is there's a methodology. There's a way that we kind of, if you're watching this episode, you're already on the path with us, and there's a way, a specific method that we can help our consciousness basically stay out of the way and help it rise. And he talks about setting the intention and then acting on that intention. Specifically, he used an example of, you can say you want to have your house cleaned, but then you have to actually take action. So we're being called into this Christ consciousness, and as you mentioned, for Paul, it Spirit provides all. And I think for a lot of us, and myself particularly, it's like when you're on this path, it feels like there's so many limits and there's something that you have to give up to get this, and it gets to be a little scary. So I want you to go and specifically address, what does this rising of consciousness look like, and how do we assist it without being fearful of it?
Okay. Well, for every person, it's absolutely different, number one. So while I can't tell anybody what to do or how to do it, We can practice attunements, and we've been doing that here. In fact, just earlier in this month of November, or I should say last month of November, we actually did some attunement work. When we've been doing it all along, but we were following the guides guidance of that attunement. And so going back to 2012, I went to that weekend workshop, and the very first night, they were teaching us this attunement. And so the attunement is a declaration, a decree, right? It's a frame that you can utilize, a template, if you will, to help yourself get out of the way, right? And quieten your mind. And what you're actually doing is decreeing. So anytime you say, I'm sick, you just decreed that you're sick. And so you give power to sickness, right? And you say, oh, I'm broke. You have decreed your financial situation, and the world starts coming and manifesting what you decree. And people are very unconscious of the power of the I am statement. So the beginning of this is to understand that in the Bible, and this is what the guides are teaching us, and you are learning it in the first book, I'm sure already, Jason, but they're teaching you that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. So this word, W-O-R-D, capital W-O-R-D, that we're referring to, that's referred to in the Bible, what we're understanding it now is the guides are helping us to understand it much better, to understand even that phrase in the Bible much more clearly. It's been very confusing. It was confusing for me my whole life until the guides helped me to see what it really meant. So word, I am word, is a declaration, right? And when we use that declaration, the word is, a definition for that, is the energy of the Creator in action. That would be you, right? You are the conduit. You are the channel. You can be the incarnation, if you will, of God in form. As Jesus said, when you see me, you see the Father. He was Word. He was being the energy of the Creator in action. And we all are here to do that. He never set himself up as special. He never asked to be worshiped. He never condemned anybody for their sins. He never condemned anybody at all. He didn't judge anybody because Spirit isn't judging anybody. But what he did do is to help us to understand that words are things, thoughts are things, and words are declarations of those thoughts. So when we use an I am statement, word, I am saying, word, I am the energy of the Creator in action, right? And so whatever I put or think of it, my thoughts, and couch my thoughts into those statements, those are declarations of a high frequency, a high vibrational field called Christ consciousness. Word, I am word. So I'm declaring that I am in recognition of who I am. So we say, word, I am word. I am word through this body. Okay, so now I'm recognizing that I am using this body as a means of expression. And I can say, word, I am word through this vibration. This vibration, thoughts are things. All thoughts have form in vibration. So just as I'm speaking to you today, my microphone is picking up the vibrations. And your speakers, if you're hearing this on your computer or your phone or however you're listening to this conversation, you're hearing vibrations. And those vibrations are being communicated, transcended into something that is understandable by your ears are picking it up, and then your brain is encoding it or decoding it, if you will, and you can understand what I'm saying, right? So all of this is very complex in its construct and its execution, but it's also very simple in its premise. I'm making a declaration that I know who I am, who God has created me to be. It doesn't matter if I'm in form or not in form. It's a true thought, right? And I'm expressing as true mind. right? True thoughts are expressions of true mind. So I'm recognizing that I'm not this small self, this personality at all. I am as God created me to be. I am a soul, right? And so in the recognition of my true nature, right, and making a decree, word I am the word, I am declaring and recognizing that I am the energy of the Creator in action. And so the very simple, declaration is, I know who I am. Word I am word. I know what I am. I am that energy in form. I'm in a human body. I am word through this body. So word I am word. I know who I am. Word I am word. I am the energy of the Creator in form. And then finally, the third one is, the declaration is, I know how I serve. Word I am word. Now I am giving voice to my soul. This is not my ego speaking, and my ego is trying to figure out what all this means, and so it can be it. But the ego needs to just be, get thee behind me, right? I need to just, I'm not listening to its confusion and not responding to its desire to be in control. I'm just simply saying, get thee behind me. I know who I am. I know what I am. I know how I serve. I serve by being God in form. Now that's sacrilegious to some, blasphemous to others, but it's true. It is a true thought. It is true meaning. It is an expression of our true creation and our true divine nature. So these simple attunements, and you're learning these now, Jason, if you're studying this first book, begin to have an attuning force in your life. And your body's vibration changes. You begin to start noticing how you're changing, because it's a process of unlearning conditioned behaviors of the egoic mind and getting it behind me and not giving it the attention. And now I'm just really not being anything other than allowing myself to be informed by the love of God. That's basically what it is.
I love that. And what I also learned is once, and this is for all of us, once this process starts, it continues. Whether we consciously let it continue or force it or step back or wander away, it continues. And we continue this path. Like you said before, it's like we're on a train, and the train's taking us to a destination. I love that. One other thing I want to mention real quickly is one thing that really spoke to me in one of the first few chapters is when Paul was writing that first book, he questioned if this book was even going to be a big deal. And the spirits almost stopped and gave him pause and said, you need to realize that you're part of us. And I often think that since hearing that about our little podcast that we have, we're starting out, what is it? Is this going to be a big deal? And then that interaction with Paul and the guides lets me realize for all of us that this is Christ consciousness. And maybe just pick one of those, Brother T, and tell me I'm wrong, or tell me I'm getting it right, or enlighten me a little bit.
Well, I mean, we're recording this, and it's on YouTube, and it's on our website, and it's on X, and it's who knows where it's going to go and where it's going to travel to and who's going to hear it. But I'm being very selfish in doing this, right? I'm being spiritually selfish because I'm dropping breadcrumbs so I can find my way back to this place of incarnation, this next incarnation, to this level of consciousness. I'm doing this to tell myself, my future self, the truth of who I am. Okay? I mean, think about it. We are our ancestors. I believe I've probably I think I'm an old soul. I think I've reincarnated hundreds of times. And I'm stubborn and I'm a slow learner and it's taken me many, many lifetimes. But you're right. I believe I stepped on this pathway long before this lifetime and many frequent lifetimes. I think it's a process. The second coming is our awakening to our divine nature. It's not Jesus coming back and slapping somebody around or fixing something. There's nothing to fix. What God created is perfect, neither behind the point of perfection nor advancing to it. And even the conversation about abundance and, your life improving and, all that's really happening is that you're getting your ego out of the way, because the ego is the only thing that's blocking your realization that God has already given you everything. So what could you be lacking? You can't lack. There's no such thing as lack in God. There's no such thing as lack in you. But as far as the ego is concerned, lack is something that has to be overcome and defeated and worked against and go to war again. I mean, the ego's insane, right? So if we allow ourselves to just relax, be quiet for a change, and when the ego starts raising its, energy and getting loud and screaming and saying, well, we got to do something, we got to become enlightened, it can't do anything except require your attention, and it doesn't deserve it. You're the one that has the ability to withhold your attention, right? Your full appreciation. You can withhold that and withdraw that from your own thoughts and say, I'm not listening. I'm not listening. I'm in a place of quiet. Love has no agenda, really, right? It doesn't need to puff itself up. It's quiet, right? It's very intelligent, and it doesn't see that anything needs to be fixed. It's patient because it knows that we have the ability, since we're the ones that decided to drift off to sleep into a dream of separation, we're the ones that have the power to awaken ourselves from the illusion. So we can talk about things to do, but the most important thing is not doing. And Jesus tells us in A Course in Miracles, you need do nothing. And that's confusing and frustrating for a lot of Course students.
Thank you, Brother T. Thank you. And isn't it amazing when you start to remember your true self and the blessings that come with that and the ease that comes with that. So thank you, Brother T.
It's just a freedom, right? It's a sense of being free. And you'll run into this in the work with the guides. And, I am free. They keep adding to the attunement. And so I know who I am, word I am word, right? I know what I am, word I am word. I know how I serve, word I am word. And then you start saying, word, I am word. I know who I am in truth, word I am word. And then eventually you start saying, word, I am word. I know who I am in truth, word I am word. I am free, I am free, I am free. What am I free from? My own stinking thinking. I now have discovered I have the capacity and the ability to tell my ego to sit down and shut up. Get thee behind me. What's left now? Space, quiet. Nothing needs to be done. The soul is activating my body, the soul is growing, and when the need is there, the soul, if I get my ego out of the way, will be the agent of love and change in this world of fear.
I love that. I love that. And I love your conversations, Brother T. I love our conversations.
I do too.
Yeah. I always come away with a better understanding, and sometimes I come away with more questions. But for today, my heart is satisfied. I feel love, and I thank everyone for joining us here today. And I will see you on another episode of The Second Coming. Brother T.
Bye-bye.